Hello humans, today I want to talk about this guy right here. This is a QSP Vault that I picked up from a local brick and mortar fairly recently. It has a silver bolster with a black micarta handle according to this. This is the 14C28N version. I generally like QSP's packaging. I haven't seen tons of it, but the only other one that I've seen was recycled material, which is pretty damn cool. We have our stickers, Have a Knife Day with the penguin, which is pretty fun. And then we have Better Knife, Better Life, QSP. Every QSP knife is guaranteed against defects in material and workmanship, has a limited lifetime warranty. For specific warranty return concerns, please review our website. If you have any questions, contact us at this thing. And then here's the card for the Vault with the glide lock. Ooh. Bolsters appear to be aluminum, handles micarta, has all of the dimensioning right here for me, which is pretty damn cool. There's a card with all of its detailing. I might have to pull apart the glide lock and see what makes it different from more traditional. There we go. What makes it different from a regular crossbar lock. Here we have our QSP branded dog poo bag. Very fancy, very fancy. Rest of the box is plain and simple. We've got this cutout bit of foam. Some places require you to separate the foam from the cardboard in order to recycle. Some places do not. Where I live it doesn't, but other than that, just plain cardboard box, which I appreciate greatly. I'm gonna keep the, ooh, actually, this is like flacked in a weird way. That's kind of gross. I'm gonna keep the box. However, all right, here we have it. Centered, it is centered out of the box, which is very, very nice. It's weighty. It doesn't, thumb in there. Hold up. Is that assisted? It's not assisted. Looks like internally it is just going to be a crossbar lock. You can see it operating back there. Oh, that's kind of cool. They have the mechanism seems to be fit inside of the bolster instead of in between the scales and the blade. So there's probably less crap that gets in there, which is kind of cool. Wow. All right. A little bit of side-to-side play out of the box. That's gonna prove to be a problem. Let me see if I can tighten it right here. T8 or T9? That's our T8. There we go. Just a bit. I am just doing that by holding the bit, but there we are. That's better. And action is still completely smooth. God, that feels exceptional. All right. It was centered. It is still centered. That's perfect. We have 2 screws to hold on this micarta scale. We have, I'm assuming that the aluminum bolster up front is just being held in place by the pivot screw. There might be a screw on the inside too that I can't see currently. Wow, that's nice. Our pocket clip is what appears to be bent. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say steel. Yeah, that is definitely bent steel. Bent steel clip, but it does come from the back, which is pretty cool and makes it nice and ambidextrous, so that is pretty damn sweet. Man, that's nice. Bead blasted or some type of a blasted bolster, cool. Minimal milling on the inside of that steel lock, or not lock bar, Steel scale on the inside, very minimal milling for weight reduction. A little bit of a back spacer. The blade itself, we have a drop point blade with a very distinctive flat and belly. This is actually, in my opinion, a very perfect drop point blade shape, and it creates a very nice continuous arch from about here to the tip, which is pretty cool. You've got some jimping, and then we have a two-tone blade finish. We have a tumbled top with a satin edge. I think it's a really, really clean look. I personally like it quite a bit. Then we have our finger twirl for a choked up position, which gets you really nice behind the edge. The spine is nicely knocked over. Yeah, that feels quite nice. I wasn't too sure visually about this indent back here. It actually fits really nicely into that swell of your hand. Whoever, I don't know who that symbol is for, but whoever's that downwards arrow symbol, they put some effort into this thing. It is beautiful feeling. And it's nice and weighty too. Like, a lot of knives aim to be very, very lightweight, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it makes them easier to carry. But I like a excuse me, I like a little bit of extra weight in my hand. Like, I really appreciate this feel. This feels absolutely exceptional. Wow. All right. Let's see how the edge comes out of the box. So I will be the first to admit I'm not necessarily giving this the best shot possible, but there does appear to be just one spot. Now, I did end up getting a display model, which might be what's doing it, but there is just one right there. Right there. Oh, maybe it was just a burr. It's like actually disappearing as I run my thumbnail across it. Yeah, that might actually have just been a bit of a burr there. Paper integrity is falling apart. That might have just been a little bit of a burr. I lost the feel of it on my thumbnail, but I can't say for sure. I will find out more through use. A little bit of jimping. It feels pretty good. Let's get into a rubber cut test. It's hollow or flat ground. It appears to be flat ground, so I'm going to guess that this is going to go very, very smoothly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, nothing to that. That is exceptional. No shouldering whatsoever. This does feel very, very slicey. I mean, it's not the thickest blade in the world, but it's also by no means the thinnest. But it feels exceptional. Wow. All right, poke test. I imagine this is going to go quite well as well. Yeah. It takes nothing. Yeah. Definitely very pokey. Micarta feels a lot smoother than it looks, which I'm actually not huge on. I like a bit of a coarser micarta that grabs my hand a bit better. This feels very smooth. It might wear in with time, I would expect, but right now it's just kind of feeling overly smooth. Yeah, biggest negative so far is absolutely the pocket clip. It is a little bit sharp, I'm finding. It should do its job just fine, and I do like the fact that it is one screw right at the back, but oh man, that is definitely the biggest downside thus far. action's freaking incredible, though. Yeah, I'm incredibly impressed with that. Thumb studs are fine. They're definitely not my favorite style thumb stud. Anyway, but they do work, and at the end of the day, I suppose that what is important. QSP always does a good job of this, but I'm going to shout it out because I appreciate it. The show side for right-handed people, they put their logo on the pivot on that side, which I just think is a really, really nice detail. I do think that that is something more companies need to do instead of putting the machined face in. Not machined face, the screw face. Instead of putting the screw face on the show side, I do really appreciate it when companies put their logo or just a little design or whatever it happens to be. So that is really nice. As usual, I'm going to play with this for a bit, carry it, give more complete thoughts when I'm done that, but right out the box, I do like it quite a bit, so I am anticipating this to go quite nicely. See you soon. And we are back. So I've been playing with this guy on and off for about a month now, actually. And I have to say, this is nice. Overall, my experience with this has been incredibly, incredibly pleasant. One of the biggest issues I typically tend to have with crossbar locks is the crossbar itself. I find, especially when I'm just kind of playing with it, eventually... One second, I'm going to grab one. This one here is a particularly aggressive example. So this is... Oh, I forgot. I got acid on it. This is the Kaiser Escort. Really nice knife. I really like it. But one of the things that I've noticed is, especially when I'm just sitting here playing with it, because of the fact that all of the pressure of the lock is just on that thin ridge where your finger's actually making contact, the more I use this, the more likely I am just to like get that kind of pressure sore, in particular on my index finger, from disengaging the lock all the time. Very minor thing. Somebody's going to tell me that I just need tougher hands, and sure, whatever. This never caused that. I played with this for hours. A large part of the reason why is because this is very high traction, but it covers a fairly decent amount of the surface area of my finger and thumb, which means that the actual pressure across all of them is quite a bit lower, which is really nice. Action stayed exceptionally, exceptionally good. One thing I will say, and I don't know if there's a way around this, but because of the fact that this is kind of a one screw pocket clip, and just the way the knife is, I ended up pressing on this every time I wanted to throw the knife. And as a result, it ended up loosening on me a lot more than any other component did. Super simple solve, just a little bit of Loctite, tighten it back down when it did loosen itself off, but it is worth noting as a consideration. Typical price for these guys seems to be around the 120 Canadian dollar mark. 14C20 end steel. It performed very well. I did touch it up. Of course, given just how much I used it, it became necessary. It felt fine. I know they're targeting Rockwell at 59 to 61. I have no idea if that's legitimately what they're targeting. Everything seems to be targeting 59 to 61, so it is what it is, but it felt like 14C and it acted like 14C, so that was good. Something I really do appreciate design-wise about this is I didn't feel forced into using the finger choil. A lot of the time on a knife that offers a finger choil, I feel like if you're not using the finger choil, it's somewhat difficult to get right up to the heel of the edge or to do any of those like high precision cuts. With this, I actually really didn't feel that. This grip is just so nice that even getting in tight for feather sticking or doing like some fine sculpting work on a piece of wood, it handled it really, really well without me needing to choke up, which I thought was really, really nice and not something you see all the time. So it does feel really good when you do see it. I like bolsters. I think that this bolster looks super, super sweet. However, because of the fact that it is a bolster and then a scale, and the scale screws are in the center, and Mechanically, this isn't a difficult thing to take apart or put back together. I mean, it's going to be more difficult than like the bottom of the barrel basement liner lock or frame lock, because there is springs in it and stuff like that. But as far as crossbar locks go, it wasn't difficult to take apart. About the same as any other. The thing that was annoying though, pivot, T8, very nice. All of the body, everything are T6, which it's insert current year, guys, get with the program. Just T8 would have been so simple, not a big deal, just make everybody's life a little bit better, you know? But no, everything other than the pivot is T6. Not the end of the world. It is what it is. Yeah, I didn't end up getting anything in the pivot, which is good. Ball bearings, duh. It is weightier, because there's not all that much skeletonizing or weight reductions happening. Inside, you can see it a little bit there. There's a couple of holes drilled, but nothing more. I like it. It feels really nimble in my hand as a result. I find it very, very comfortable. So take from that what you will. Jimps on the top are very good without being aggressive and teary. Some knives feel they need to overcompensate and get really aggressive jimps when they want, like sharp jimps when they want to get your hand in there. These jimps are nicely rounded, but they absolutely lock your hand into position, which is what you need. A lot of the ergonomics and comfort aspect of this were extremely, extremely well designed. Like even this little swell right here fits really nicely, especially in the choked up position, in this swell in the palm of my hand, just making it meltingly comfortable, which is pretty cool. There are a couple different aesthetic variations, obviously, but this is the one I got, and I am beyond happy with it. Let's get into some size comparisons. Here it is next to the Civivi Chevalier and the Banter. As you can see, it fits in between the two. It's much closer in size to the Civivi Chevalier, but because of the finger choil, its actual blade length is quite a bit closer to the Wee Banter. It is a little bit longer, but not by a lot. I didn't realize how awkward it was to try and close a knife with another one in your hand. Which is a dumb statement to say out loud because of course it would be awkward, but never thought about that. Here it is next to the Buck 110 and a Zippo. You know, smaller than Buck 110, bigger than Zippo. Pretty standard fare. The widest point of this guy, excluding the pocket clip, is going to be in the lock. Oh yeah, it's also nicely contoured. I don't know. I don't think I mentioned that, but it is in fact contoured, which is just pretty cool. It is quite close actually to the thickness of the Buck 110, the maximum thickness of the Buck 110. It's a little bit slimmer, and again, because it's all nicely rounded, it is quite a bit more comfortable, especially versus that model, which is from the 70s, which means it's going to be, yeah, it's thicker. It's thicker than the Zippo even at the end of the bolster, so it's definitely thicker in the lock and throughout the maximum points of the handle. The micarta is good, suitably grippy, about what you'd expect. It is a little bit less sort of soft than a lot of micarta are. I would say it's probably less densely woven is what I'm going to say. So there's less ends of the fibrous material, which just means that there's more acrylic resin. It's not acrylic though, it's fiberglass resin, I think. Whatever resin they're using, there's more of it in contact with your hand for the area, which leads to it feeling a little bit more plasticky. It doesn't feel slick plasticky or cheap plasticky, but it has that like nice plastic feel, nice as far as nice plastics go, feel to it. And then if it gets wet or if your palm's sweaty or anything like that, it's just a little bit more grippy than you would expect it to be. Take of that what you will. Honestly, I mean, it held an edge well. It took an edge well. 14C is a steel that I rate quite highly. I do really like 14C, especially in this what I consider to be upgraded price point, which is about $100 to about 225 Canadian dollars. Right, so it's an entry to that sort of area. This is a good steel. It's a very, very comfortable knife. It's a little bit, just because of the finger choil especially, it feels a little bit smaller than it actually is, which is something you get with any knife with a finger choil, but it is still worth mentioning because you have less edge length than you typically do. I never felt lacking for edge though, which I do sometimes, especially on knives with finger choils. So that is worth noting. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do blade stock thickness because I always do blade stock thickness, but I rate this quite highly. Like, yeah, so it's it's probably 117 thousandths. I feel like that has to be something meaningful in a different 3 millimeters. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, so very standard thickness for a pocket knife. It might be a little more wedgy than like a full flat grind, but it's a high enough flat grind. It doesn't drag. It didn't feel like a brick cutting through anything. Honestly, this does punch a little bit above its weight class, but not a lot. This feels very appropriately priced. It's a good quality feeling product, and it was fine. If you like carrying a slightly larger knife, this is going to disappoint. If you are used to carrying a medium-sized knife, it might feel a little bit smaller than you typically carry. Like, this felt like it was about the same size in terms of like how the edge performed and using the knife as a knife, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It felt like it was more similar in size to the Wee Banter. A lot of that is just the smaller edge, but you have a lot of handle space. If you have bigger hands, it will definitely become accommodating for that, which I think is pretty damn cool. Yeah, it's pretty plain Jane. It's difficult to say a lot about something that's pretty plain Jane, but the little details that they've done are very well done, well executed. I like bolsters. I think bolsters on modern knives are something we need to be bringing back because it looks so damn good. The bigger finger pads for the crossbar lock, absolutely love that. They're not the only people doing similar stuff, but this is, I think, yeah, this is the best example of it I have seen personally. I still like, at least in idea and largely in execution, I like Kaiser's crossbar lock more just because of that adjustability, the fact that you can set your tension to whatever you want, or whatever you want within their set amount of holes that they drill. But this one here is definitely a close second. Yeah, it's really good. If you're looking for a knife, one and done knife, this is a phenomenal example. It is going to require a little bit more attention just because ball bearings and crossbar lock can get gumped up. If you work in a very particularly dirty environment, this is a knife you might have to disassemble fairly often. And because of the fact that there is a bunch of extra steps, disassembling can be a little bit of a drag, but any other environment, this is an extremely easy recommend. Yeah, stay safe and have fun out there. Peace.